It's time for the Cover Price Top 10. We're going back 4 years. All right, guys, we're going to go back 4 years in this video, and a big shout out to Covrprice. They are the ones who give us all this information. Check them out. There is a discount code down below for Covrprice. It's a phenomenal tool. I hope a lot of you guys use it. I know I do. One other little thing, give me a follow over on eBay. Check out my eBay store. I have a bunch of exclusives on there. I have a Cobra Commander #1, a Duke #1, and the Chris Campana Thundercats #1, all available right now on my eBay store. And check it out, because now we're going weekly on eBay Live, Tuesday nights at 8:30, right after me, the Defects, and right after the Defects is Erod. Check all of our live shows out every Tuesday night and every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. I will be on Whatnot. So you get the best of both worlds. One last thing I do want to say before we get into this list, it's thank you. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for the thumbs up, the comments, the shares, all of it. I appreciate every single one of everything, all of it. All of it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I need to say it more in my videos, but don't think it doesn't go unnoticed, and I appreciate everything. So with that, let's get into this list. We're going back 4 years, and let's start with number 10. This is Morbius, the Living Vampire #1 from 1992. The Morbius film news and accompanying trailer created a lot of buzz and interest for the Morbius first solo movie. Well, specifically, this first solo series. This once $1 bin book featuring the first solo series shot up to $8 raw, 90 for a CGC 9.8. 4 years later, we know fans and critics alike met the film with lukewarm, at best, lukewarm reactions. This book is now back down to $6 for a raw copy, $39 for a 9.8, making it a bust. However, it's not a terrible drop in 4 years, and there does remain some slight reason for optimism with Morbius, as he can be used in the increasingly popular SpiderMan and Blade game series. I don't know how much stock you want to put into it, but for a $4 or $5 book, if you want it, it can't drop much more. You might as well just go grab it. Let's get to number 9. This is the Savage She-Hulk #1. This is from 1980. 4 years ago, news of the She-Hulk Disney Plus series beginning production had collectors buying copies of her first appearance at $64 raw, $427 in a CGC 9.8. Fast forward to 2024, excitement for the series pushed 9.8 sales as high as $1,500, though the MCU's recent track record of disappointing content helped drop She-Hulk's interest. So much so, the actress Tatiana Maslany, I don't know if I'm saying that, recently mentioned that she doubts there will ever be a second season. She-Hulk's long undervalued first appearance has settled to $64, making it a draw in Raw. However, 9.8s have fallen to $344, a pre-MCU speculation value, making this book a bust. Again, this is an excellent price for a Stan Lee-created character with high presence in the comics and is rumored to see some more screen time in future films. Hopefully, the character can receive a different approach and connect to a wider audience. Regardless, now's a great time to buy a 9.8 copy, because I don't know how much further it can fall. I mean, it is from 1980. It's like one of Stan Lee's final creations for Marvel, I believe. So it's still, and it is a good cover. A lot of reasons to own it. A lot of reasons why it should hold this value, but obviously the overspec, overhype, driving it all the way up to $1,500. That was way overvalued. Let's get to number 8. This is Eternals #1 from 2006. 4 years ago, the Eternals film and rumored plot points were a reason this particular issue was selling for $6 raw, $100 in a 9.8. The entire Eternals series was actually selling very well, as excitement was very high for the upcoming film. 4 years later, the Eternals have come and gone, and interest has waned. In fact, it's been close to 3 years since we've seen any of these characters, and their overall value has plummeted. This issue can now be had for $3.26 in a 9.8, making it a bust. While the film wasn't a big hit for Marvel, its fans have been loud and vocal, at least. There is still hope that we will see the Eternals again in the MCU, but will their reappearance help their key comics increase in value again? Only time will tell. They need to do them right. I like the Eternals movie, and this is when the comment section gets loaded up with people defending the Eternals movie, people attacking the Eternals movie, and I could see both sides of the argument. Personally, I did like it. It was something a little different. I did like the story. I did like the characters. And who really enjoyed the original Eternals series anyway, to a point where they were upset about it not being super comic accurate? That was never the argument. It was just people saying they didn't enjoy the movie. Let's get to number 7. This is Peter Parker, Spider-Man number 4. This issue marks the first appearance of Lucius Crown. Crown was supposed to be featured in the Morbius film. See, this comic book was selling for $11 and no graded copies on the aftermarket in 2020. 4 years later, the lackluster response of the film has left this book basically back to where it was prior to any heat. A raw copy can now be had for $3 with still no graded copies, making this book a bust 4 years later. Not a lot to talk about here. The next one, though, let's get into this. This is number 6. This is the Eternals number 1. This is our 1976, baby. The Eternals MCU debut was extremely anticipated, and at the time, thanks to some of these on-set photo leaks, their first appearance hit a high sale of $125 raw, $1,000 for CGC 9.8. At this point, 4 years ago, we were still a year away from the trailer and a year and a half from the film's release. This fourth MCU film post-Endgame officially kicked off Phase 4's multiverse saga, which promised an epic world-bending, space-focused Marvel Cinematic Universe. 4 years later, wow, how things changed. Despite loyal Eternal supporters, the Eternal film was highly criticized by fans, expecting the character crossover Phase 3 ended with. And leading up to the film, a 9.8 hit a massive high of $3,800. This book can now be purchased for a fair market value of $354, that same 9.8 copy, and $46 raw. This drastic price difference makes this book a bust 4 years later. However, keep in mind that the pre-announcement rumors and speculation had 9.8s priced at $300. So did it just settle? It's important to note that this book flooded the aftermarket during the film's release, and the high supply couldn't match demand. Yet this book is a Bronze Age Kirby key and definitely has some room for growth, film appearances or not. Of course, seeing the team reappearing on the big screen would surely help. I don't think we're done with the Eternals. I don't think we are. And good point here. Guys, the book is selling in a 9.8 for more than it did pre-announcement of the Eternals movie, which means it held a little value. I think we can all agree that, what was that, $3,500? How much was that? I'm trying to read here. $3,800 is probably too much for that book. Remember, there is a 35-cent price variant as well. Keep an eye out for that one. That's hard to find, and that one is pretty expensive. Let's get to number 5. I think you guys have heard about this one before. This is the first appearance of Miles Morales here, Ultimate Fallout 4. It's been a mainstay on the top 10 list for years, yet back in January of 2020, his first appearance could easily be purchased for $100 raw, $370 for CGC 9.8. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was even 2 years old at this point. Little did we know that COVID was already taking over the world, ready to send us all indoors for the next couple years. 4 years later, Miles transformed from another Spider-Man to most valuable modern character in comics in a matter of months. A Miles-focused video game and rumored live-action debut pushed this modern favorite into the stratosphere. Despite drops over the past year, its current near-mint raw fair market value of $511 and $12.91 in a 9.8 is a huge boom since 2020. The future is bright for Miles than nearly any other character on any list, and it should be a fun ride moving forward. We have done weeks of these where all we see are busts, but Miles is still a boost. Now, granted, off the highs that he had, but still significantly higher at this point than it was back in 2020, pre-COVID, right before COVID really started hitting. This book is still crazy expensive, still sought after by people. It's a great cover. I do like this cover. Great character, great cover, great artwork, great storyline, and he is being used all over the place. Do not expect this book to even sniff those numbers back in 2020. No way. There's no chance. Let's get to number 4. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 101. Another Morbius entry, this time with the first appearance of ASM number 101. This book was selling really well back in 2020 with a CGC 9.0 reaching a high of $1,281 and $761 in a very fine raw. 4 years later, the book in the same grade can be obtained for a very soft drop at $1,150 and $500 for a very fine raw. This less dramatic drop in price makes this book a bust, yet still pretty reasonable based on the poor reception to the Morbius film. It's really quite simple. Spider-Man books hold value better than most. I will take it a step further. That's because this is a solid Bronze Age, very early Bronze Age Spider-Man key. You've heard me say it. I'm sure you've heard other people say it. If you want to buy books that are going to retain value and grow over time, silver and bronze Marvel keys. DC to a point. Actually, I think DC right now, bronze DC is where it's at because I think James Gunn, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I think James Gunn is going to take some of those Bronze Age characters into a crazy level. But silver and bronze keys, that's what you want. Now, if that isn't your interest and you're not in it for collecting for the money and the growth and all that, then collect what you like. By all means, collect what you like. Be careful not to pay too much money, but collect what you like. Let's go down. Where are we? Number 3? Yeah, let's get to number 3. This is Avengers number 133. This book features various first appearances, the first origin of the Kree, the first origin of Mantis, the origin of Vision, and the first appearance of the Kotati. The Kotati was rumored to play a large role in the upcoming Empire storyline that Marvel was teasing back in 2020. Collectors were listening as this book had a high near-mint raw sale of $40. 4 years later, Empire story was just mostly okay for most fans and readers, and we now see this book selling for $20, making it a bust. But once again, not a terrible drop in 4 years. This book contains some decent key information which should help it maintain its current value, a Bronze Age Marvel key. I mean, there's nothing else to talk about. Let's get to number 2. This is Star Wars, The Rise of Kylo Ren, number 1. The Kylo Ren series was doing extremely well on the aftermarket back in 2020. The first issue featuring the origin of Kylo Ren, the first appearance of the Jedi Vo and Ren, leader of the Knights of Ren. The variants for this series was flying off eBay, and this standard cover hit a high sale of $40 raw and $130 for a 9.8. Here we are in 2024, 4 years later, and prices have come down to $17 raw, $100 for a 9.8 for this debut issue of the series. The price drop makes this book a bust raw, but much softer drop in a 9.8. Overall, Star Wars keys have settled because most on-screen appearances are brief, short-lived, or long-rumored. The series is a great read and will surely remain sought after by many Star Wars fans. All right, guys, we have one more to go. Before we get into it, remember, give Covrprice a follow. Give me a follow. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. And remember, check the description. There are a lot of discount codes in the description. One I didn't even mention earlier, GeminiMailers.com, Gemini Comic Mailers. All that information is in there. I think I can get you 10% off with the code. So if you mail a lot of comic books and you need the Gemini mailers, there is a 10% discount code in the description. That's one you should use, again, especially if you're mailing a lot of books. With that, let's get to our number 1. This is Star Wars: The Rise of Kylo Ren, number 2. The top spot of the list in 2020 also belonged to Kylo Ren. Issue number 2 was doing very well, with copies selling for $22 thanks to the first mention of the High Republic, which fans associated with a sign and connection to Lucas Publishing's rumored Project Luminous, which was officially announced a month later in February. 4 years later, issue 2 can now be had for $12 raw, and an October 2023 9.8 sale of $36, making it a bust. However, this brief mention of the High Republic should be a minor key for diehard Star Wars collectors. With that, we are done, guys. Thank you so much. I do want to just mention, this list was a really good list. You saw some big drops. You saw some small drops, and you saw some stuff that kind of nearly held its value. Silver, bronze, keys. That's it. If you're looking for investment purposes, silver and bronze keys. Even Morbius didn't drop off significantly. Take that. Think about it. Use all my information and get information from other people too, and gather all the information and make the best decision possible. Don't just listen to me. You need to listen to multiple sources on stuff like this. So thank you so much for watching. And as always, keep it comics.